we were coming in and learning about the outsized impact that agriculture has in our simple mills
Mhm.
supply chain.
Yeah.
So that is typically the case, right, for most food companies where the impact is really skewed toward the farm level.
Mhm.
So we know at Simple Mills that our ingredients account for more than half of our greenhouse gas emissions. So prioritizing agriculture as this like really critical opportunity for positive impact made a ton of sense, right? And I would also say that over the years, we've spent a lot of time talking to farmers, listening to farmers, and we've learned a few really important things that have shaped our approach to regenerative ag that we've built. I would also just say, backing up a little bit, because I know there are a lot of kind of definitions, interpretations of regenerative ag. The way that we think about it is really a holistic and principles based approach to farming and ranching that builds ecosystem resilience.
Mhm.
So, some of the things that we've learned, right? We've learned that simply asking or telling farmers to adopt certain practices often misses the mark. Um, if you
Yes.
know farmers, I'm not going to generalize, but a lot of them don't like being told what to do.
Yep.
But most of the farmers we talk to are really interested in using regenerative principles.
Yeah.
So things like diversifying their rotations or keeping a living root in the ground year round. They're bought into those concepts, but the context that they're operating in is not always conducive, and it
Mhm.
requires them to take really big risks that we feel at Simple Mills should really be better shared across the supply chain. So if you think about things like corn and soy, right? Like crop protection for those crops is really good, but for lesser used ingredients that we use, like sunflowers and buckwheat,
Mhm.
in the case of something like a weather event, like that protection is really limited or non-existent in most growing regions.
Yeah.
So growing something outside of the traditional, U.S. ag wheelhouse, a lot of the things we buy is a really big risk for these growers.
Yeah.
And then market demand often isn't there, right, to support these diverse crop rotations. So if farmers are told to just maximize diversity, right, one of the principles of regenerative ag, but brands won't buy the buckwheat that is making the
Mhm.
phosphorus available in the soil, or we were just talking to a farmer that loves rye the other day, and he likes it because the root system is breaking up compacted soil. But if there are no brands buying rye, then
Right.
what support does a farmer really have to add variety to their rotations? So, all to say that we've taken a really deep look at the role we should be playing at Simple Mills to join farmers in their journeys to implement regenerative ag. And what we've come to is this idea that we should really be helping de risk their transitions to regenerative.
Mm.
So, not just handing them, a prescriptive list of practices that will advance our Simple Mills agenda, but
Yeah.
actually meeting them where they want to advance regenerative ag in their specific context.
We're thinking about, like Christina mentioned, how do we share the risk of growers implementing regenerative principles? And so, what that looks like for us is not only creating that market for their crop and those relationships, but also covering the cost of planting seeds. So, signaling that upfront commitment in a system where oftentimes growers have to plant before they have any kind of market or
Yeah.
confirmed, buyer for their material. We're also providing that regenerative bonus payment to help offset some of those costs that the farmers are incurring. Again, an important thing to note here about context is that the specific practices that any given farmer is using those funds for look really different. So, in any year, we have some growers who are using that for livestock fencing to integrate animals
Mhm.
onto their land. We have others using it for machinery that can help, decrease tillage. We have cover crop seed. There's a huge range of what those funds are used for, but that's really exciting to us. We want to give farmers the opportunity to innovate and, you know, try these things in practice in the way that makes sense for them and their context. Um, and I think also through these conversations with growers over the years now, we've learned that a lot of these growers, they are already bought into the merits of regenerative and trying
Mhm.
this system on their land. what they really need from brands and other partners in the supply chain is co-investment in the upfront, cost of putting these practices into place. They need a market for their crop, and they love to have visibility to just where it's going, right? It's not just a thing that gets dropped off at the elevator and that's the end of their work. But,
Yeah.
they have visibility all the way through the brand that it's going to, the product that is on shelf. We hear a lot that they love to go to the store, pick up, our cracker product and say, this is, where my food goes.
Yeah.
That's really special to see that all the way through. Um, and, there's a reason why these kind of programs are not common in our industry. They're really hard. Um, in the, traditional commodity system, the buyer buys the ingredient, and that's the extent of their involvement in the supply chain. On the other hand, here, our team is very deeply involved in the supply chain, navigating issues with the seed storage, with crop failures and weather events, and all of these things that come along with agriculture, honestly. Uh, but our relationships that we've gained through this program from conversations with the growers. Um, it's been really instrumental in shaping our strategy, how we center our work around farmers and their insights. And, I think those relationships are really special because at the end of the day, all of these different supply partners, we can learn from each other across the value chain. And this program brings us a lot closer together.